The outer colony of Varilla drifted quietly along the edge of known space, a ring of silver structures orbiting a pale blue star. From far away it looked peaceful, almost beautiful, but inside its metal corridors life was not easy. Every drop of water, every piece of food, every unit of energy had to be measured and counted. Most species living there understood this truth from birth. The children did not. There were 5 of them, all different in appearance, yet bound together by family. Their mother had been gentle and wise, a trader who believed that kindness was stronger than power. While she lived, their home had been filled with warmth, stories, and laughter. She had married a wealthy merchant named Carvin after losing her first partner, hoping stability would help her children grow safely. At first, Carvin seemed generous. He provided large meals, comfortable clothing, and bright rooms overlooking the starfield. The children never worried about hunger or limits. They ate until they were full, sometimes more than full, because no one told them to stop. They grew used to abundance without understanding its cost. Then their mother became ill. Her sickness spread quietly, draining her strength day by day. Carvin grew distant during that time. He avoided long conversations and focused on his business. When she passed away, the warmth of the home disappeared with her. Silence replaced laughter. The light seemed colder, and the large rooms felt empty. Without their mother's kindness, Carvin's patience vanished. He watched the children closely. He noticed how much they ate, how carelessly they used resources, how they argued and wasted time. To him, they were reminders of responsibility he never truly wanted. The colony itself began facing shortages after a mining accident disrupted supply chains, and tension spread among the population. Whispers followed the children wherever they went. Those are the ones who eat too much. They don't understand limits. They live like royalty while others struggle.
The children felt the change but did not fully understand it. The oldest, Lyra, tried to act strong for the others.
She was tall and quiet, her silver eyes always watching. The youngest, Tavi, still believed everything would return to normal if they behaved well enough. Between them were Kiro, who loved building things, Mira, who felt emotions deeply, and Solon, who asked endless questions about the universe. Carvin stopped sitting with them during meals. Instead of joining conversations, he reviewed data on his wrist console. When they asked for help or comfort, he responded with short answers. His voice carried irritation, as though their existence itself was a burden. One evening, he called them together. "We are relocating," he said without warmth. The children exchanged confused looks. "Where?" Lyra asked. "A temporary outpost," he replied. "Supplies are limited here. You will stay there until conditions improve." The explanation sounded reasonable, but something in his tone felt wrong. Still, they trusted him because they had no other choice. They packed their belongings, carrying only what they were allowed to take. The shuttle journey lasted several hours. Outside the windows stretched endless darkness dotted with distant stars. The outpost appeared slowly, a small cluster of aging structures attached to a rocky asteroid. It looked lonely compared to their former home. Carvin guided them inside and gave brief instructions about food dispensers and sleeping areas. His movements were quick, impatient. When Tave asked when they would return home, he avoided answering directly. "You must learn to manage yourselves," he said. "It is time." Before they could ask more questions, he turned away. The shuttle doors closed behind him. Through the viewing port, the children watched as the ship detached and disappeared into space. At first, they assumed he would come back soon. Minutes passed, then hours. Realization arrived slowly and painfully. He was not returning. Mira began to cry quietly. Tavi stared at the empty darkness, waiting for the shuttle to reappear. Lyra felt anger rising inside her, mixed with fear she tried to hide. Solon asked logical questions about their situation, but no one had answers. The outpost was old, Lights flickered. The food dispensers contained only limited supplies. Warning signals blinked softly across control panels, showing low reserves. They did not know how to repair machines or grow food. The skills they needed had never been taught to them. The first day passed in confusion. They ate more than they should have because hunger and fear made them nervous. Only later did they realize how fast the reserves were decreasing. Lyra gathered them together and explained the situation as calmly as she could. "We must learn to use less," she said. "No more wasting." Her voice sounded strong, but inside she felt overwhelmed. The following days were harder. Cold air drifted through broken vents. The lights dimmed at night when energy levels dropped. Strange noises echoed through the metal walls, reminding them how isolated they were. Without other people around, time felt slower. They argued at first. Old habits were difficult to change. Kiro complained about hunger. Mira cried when things felt unfair. Tavi asked constantly when their stepfather would return, but slowly they began to change. Lyra rationed food carefully. Kiro experimented with broken tools, trying to understand how machines worked. Solon studied old manuals stored in the system, searching for solutions. Mira focused on keeping everyone emotionally calm, telling stories their mother once shared. Still, survival felt uncertain. One night, the power nearly failed. Darkness swallowed the outpost except for emergency lights glowing red. Fear filled the room. They huddled together, listening to the sound of distant metal creaking. That was when the signal arrived. At first, it was only a faint vibration through the communication panel. Then a voice echoed through the speakers, rough but warm. "I identified outpost. This is cargo vessel Horizon Wind," receiving an old distress ping. "Anyone alive in there?" The children froze. Lyra rushed to the console, unsure what to say. Her hands trembled as she activated the microphone. "Yes," she said. "We are here." Static crackled before the voice returned. "Good. Hold on. I'm docking." Minutes later, heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor as a human man entered the main chamber. He looked tired but alert, wearing a worn jacket marked with patches from many journeys. His dark eyes scanned the room carefully, noticing the children immediately. He paused, surprised. "Well," he said softly, "I expected maybe a broken machine, not 5 kids." His name was Elias. He listened quietly as Lyra explained what happened. He did not interrupt or judge. When she finished, he remained silent for a moment, absorbing the situation. Most visitors would have left after confirming the distress signal was accidental. Time was money in space, and cargo pilots rarely delayed their schedules. The children waited nervously, expecting him to say he had to go. Instead, he knelt so he could look them in the eyes. "Looks like you've had a rough time," he said gently. "First thing we do is get you fed properly and check this station." His words felt strange because they carried no blame. He examined the dispensers, repaired a loose power connection, and adjusted energy flow to stabilize lighting. He showed them how to track resource levels and explained why balance mattered. Humans were known among alien societies for being unpredictable, driven by emotion rather than pure logic. Elias demonstrated this clearly when he cooked a simple meal from his own ship's supplies and insisted everyone eat together. For the first time since their mother's death, the children felt something close to comfort. Elias did not treat them like burdens. He asked their names, listened to their answers, and laughed gently when Tavi told him long stories about imaginary adventures. He praised Kiro's curiosity and encouraged Solon's questions. He told Mira that feeling deeply was not weakness. Late that evening, Lyra asked quietly, "Are you leaving tomorrow?" He hesitated. "Maybe," he said honestly, "but not before making sure you're safe." The promise felt fragile but powerful. Over the next days, he taught them small but important skills. how to repair simple panels, how to measure portions, how to think ahead instead of only reacting. He explained human survival philosophy, that mistakes were part of learning, and no one improved without trying. Alien neighbors occasionally passed through nearby space but rarely stopped. Many considered abandoned dependence a waste of resources. Elias ignored those opinions. He believed something different. He believed people deserved second chances. The children began changing faster than anyone expected. They laughed more. They worked together. They started viewing the outpost not only as a prison but as a place they could shape. One evening, after finishing repairs, Elias watched them from across the room. The station lights glowed softly around them as they shared food they had prepared themselves. A small smile crossed his face. Perhaps he had intended only a short visit, but something about their resilience, their willingness to grow despite pain, reminded him why humans traveled the stars. Not only to explore new worlds, but to find connections that mattered. And without realizing it yet, the abandoned children had already begun to build a new family. Elias did not leave the next day. At first he told himself it was only because the outpost systems were unstable. If he flew off and the power failed again, 5 children could freeze or starve before anyone noticed. That was reason enough, he said. A practical reason. But even after the lights stayed steady and the air grew warmer, he still delayed his departure. He slept on his ship, a small cargo hauler docked to the side of the station. Yet each morning he returned to the main chamber as if it was the most normal thing in the galaxy. He brought extra filters, basic medical packs, and a box of long-life ration bars. He did not toss them down like a charity gift. He explained how each item worked, how to count it, and how to stretch it. The children watched everything closely. Lyra became his shadow, listening to every instruction with serious focus. Kiro asked to handle tools, eager to learn. Solon read manuals and repeated the steps aloud to make sure he understood. Mira tried to keep everyone calm when stress rose. Tavi followed Elias everywhere, asking so many questions that even the patient human had to laugh. On the 3rd morning, Elias called them to the control panel. He tapped a graph that showed energy use. "This is what's been hurting you," he said. Not just the shortage, the habit. She already knew what he meant. Elias pointed to the sharp drops. You use too much at once, then you panic when it's low, then you use more to feel better. That pattern will break any home, even a rich one. We didn't know.
I know, Elias said. That's why I'm here.
He gave them a simple rule. The outpost would live on a daily plan. Each morning they would check 3 things: power, air, and food. Each evening they would record what they used. The plan was not meant to punish. It was meant to make survival visible. The first time they tried it, they failed. Tavi forgot and left a heater running in an empty room. The energy dipped again, and alarms chirped softly. Lyra snapped at him, fear making her voice sharp. Tavi's eyes filled with tears, and Mira rushed to comfort him. Kiro muttered that this was impossible. Solon began reading the manual too quickly, panicking, flipping pages like answers would fall out. Elias waited until the alarm stopped. Then he spoke in a calm voice. "Nobody's getting thrown away for a mistake," he said. The sentence hit them like a strange new law. Lyra stared at him. But mistakes cost resources. They do, Elias agreed. So we learn. We fix. We move on. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is getting better together. He showed Tavi how to set simple auto-timers. He showed Lyra how to correct without breaking someone's spirit. He showed Kiro a better way to track tool parts. He showed Solon how to slow down and focus on one system at a time. He showed Mira that her soft words mattered, because fear could waste more energy than any heater. Each day after that, they improved, The outpost began to feel less like a tomb and more like a workshop. Broken panels got repaired. Dusty storage rooms got cleaned. A dead hydroponic rack, an old food-growing frame, was pulled from a back corridor and examined like treasure. "Can we make it work?" Solon asked, almost whispering. Elias crouched beside it, wiping grime away.
"Maybe, if the pump isn't ruined and we can patch the lines."
"I can try." So they tried. It took hours of careful effort. Elias taught Kiro how to listen to machines, how to feel vibration through a wrench. Kiro learned to slow his hands, to be patient. Lyra held lights steady while Mira organized small parts into neat rows. Tavi ran back and forth, carrying cloths and tools, proud to help. When the pump finally hummed, a quiet cheer filled the room. It wasn't a miracle. It was a start. Elias brought seed packs from his cargo holds, basic algae and fast-growing greens designed for harsh environments. He explained how plants turned light and nutrients into food, how small changes could multiply into survival.
"This won't feed you tomorrow," he warned. "But it will feed you later."
Humans build for later. The children held the tiny seeds as if they were stars. As days passed, something else changed too. Their bodies, the constant heavy eating of their old life, was replaced by balanced meals. They didn't feel stuffed and sluggish anymore. They began to feel strong in a new way. Their minds felt clearer. Their sleep improved. Even their arguments shifted from hangry blame to problem-solving. One evening, after the hydroponic rack was set and the air filters cleaned, they sat around a small table. The meal was simple: warm broth from ration stock, a few nutrient crackers, and the last of Elias's ship fruit. Tavi took a small bite and stopped. He stared at the food like it was a puzzle.
"This tastes better," he said softly.
Mira smiled. "It's the same food." "No," Tavi insisted. "It tastes like we did it." Elias leaned back, amused. "That's the secret ingredient. Work." Lyra watched Elias across the table. She had been watching him a lot, though she tried not to be obvious. He didn't speak like the colony leaders. He didn't act like Carven. He didn't measure a person's worth by their usefulness in a cold calculation. Still, she didn't fully trust Hope. Hope had hurt them before. That night, she found Elias near the docking bay, checking his ship's engines. "Why did you answer the distress ping?" she asked. Elias wiped grease from his fingers. "Because it was there." Lyra didn't like the simple answer. "People ignore things like this. Some do," he said. She pressed harder.
"But why are you still here?"
Elias paused. For the first time, he looked uncertain.
"My job is to deliver cargo," he admitted. "But I'm also
human. We're not good at walking away from kids." Lyra's voice dropped. "Our stepfather was good at it." Elias met her eyes. Then he missed the point of being a caretaker. The words sank into her, heavy and real. A few days later, a small supply skiff appeared on the edge of the outpost's sensor range. It didn't dock right away. It floated nearby, scanning. Elias noticed first. He was calibrating the communication array when the radar pinged. "Someone's curious," he muttered. Lyra approached, worry returning.
"Is it Carven?"
Elias didn't answer immediately. He adjusted the view and magnified the signal. "Not his shuttle," he said. "Different build." The skiff finally requested permission to dock. Elias allowed it, but he told the children to stay behind the inner hatch. He stood at the airlock with his arms relaxed but ready. When the door opened, 2 aliens stepped in. They wore colony utility suits and carried data pads. Their faces were cautious, not hostile. One introduced herself as Enna, a supply coordinator for a nearby maintenance route. The other, a quiet man named Jor, watched Elias with careful eyes. Anna spoke first. We received a secondary ping. This outpost was listed as non-operational, yet now it is stable. Elias shrugged. It had people inside. Anna's gaze flicked to the inner hatch. She could hear movement. Children? Elias didn't hide it. Yes. Abandoned. I found them by accident. Yor's eyes narrowed. Abandoned dependents are usually reclaimed by their guardian or by the colony welfare office. Then the welfare office has terrible timing. Anna hesitated. Who is their registered guardian? Hera listened from behind the hatch. Her stomach tightened. Elias answered calmly, Carvin Drell. Merchant contractor, and his face stiffened, as if the name carried weight.
He is not small. Neither is what he did, Elias said.
The visitors exchanged a look. Anna lowered her voice. If Carvin truly abandoned them, the council will not like the publicity. But he has influence. He may claim he relocated them for safety. Lyra felt her hands clench. That was exactly what he would say. Elias turned slightly, speaking in a tone that was both friendly and firm. I have logs, station records, docking times. He left and never came back. Anna nodded slowly, impressed by the preparation.
You are human, Elias smirked. We keep receipts. Jor remained skeptical.
And what are you planning to do now? Elias looked past them toward the children's hatch, then back again. Teach them to survive. Help them contact people who might actually care. Anna studied him for a long moment. You know you're making an enemy. Elias didn't deny it. Kids already had one. I'm not scared of a merchant. I'm like... Anna's expression softened, just a little. I can leave some extra filter pads. Officially, I was never here. Unofficially, I don't like the idea of children dying in the dark. Elias accepted the pads. That's more than most would do. When the skiff left, the outpost felt quiet again, but not peaceful. There was a new tension in the air, like the first crack of distant thunder. The children came out slowly. Solon spoke first, voice tight with logic, trying to hold back fear. If the council gets involved, Carvin could demand we return. Mira's eyes widened. He can't just take us back like objects. Lyra swallowed hard. She hated that the fear felt familiar. He will try. Elias leaned against the console. Then we prepare for that. He didn't say it like a threat. He said it like a plan. From that day forward, their lessons gained a new edge. They still fixed machines and grew food, but they also practiced communication protocols, learned what rights existed in the colony system, and gathered records. Elias showed them how to store evidence safely, how to back it up across different drives, how to keep copies away from easy deletion. Power doesn't always fight with fists, he told them. Often it fights with paperwork, pressure, and fear. Kiro looked disgusted. That's unfair.
Elias nodded.
It is, which is why we counter it with truth. At night, the children whispered among themselves. Sometimes they wondered if they were causing trouble by staying alive. That thought made Lyra furious every time it surfaced. We are not trouble, she told them. We are people. Mira hugged Tavi when he had nightmares about being left again. Solon wrote lists of possible future choices. Kiro worked harder than ever, as if building stronger walls could keep fear out. One evening, while they checked the hydroponic rack, the first green sprout appeared. It was tiny, fragile, almost laughable against the cold metal world around it. Tavi stared at it with wide eyes. It's real. Elias smiled, and this time it reached his eyes fully. Told you, later becomes now. Lyra looked at the sprout, then at her siblings. Something inside her loosened. Not all the way, but enough to breathe. The next day, a message came through the official relay channel. It was short, formal, and cold. Outpost V9. Unauthorized occupation detected. Guardian reclamation request pending. Stand by for inspection. Mira's face went pale. Solon's hands shook. Kiro swore under his breath, then apologized quickly because he remembered their new rule about calm. Lyra looked at Elias. He found us. He stepped to the console, reading the message carefully, then opened his log files like he had been expecting this moment. "They're coming," he said, voice steady. "That's fine." Tavi grabbed his sleeve. "Will they take us?" Elias bent down and placed a hand on Tavi's shoulder, gentle but strong. "Listen to me," he said. "Nobody takes you without a fight of facts, rules, and choices. You're not helpless anymore." Then he stood up, eyes hardening in a way the children hadn't seen before. Not angry, focused. He looked at the outpost around them. The repaired panels, the steady lights, the growing plants, the children who now worked like a team. "Get your records organized," he said, "and pack a small bag each. Not because we're running. Because we're ready." Outside, far in the black ocean of space, a new ship signal flickered at the edge of the radar. It was approaching fast. The approaching ship appeared first as a small light against the darkness, then slowly grew larger on the outpost screen. Its signal code carried official authorization, which made the air inside the station feel heavy. The children stood close together near the control console, watching silently while Elias monitored the approach. Lyra tried to keep her breathing steady. She had prepared herself for this moment ever since the warning message arrived, but seeing the ship made everything feel real again. Memories of their stepfather's cold voice returned, and she pushed them away with effort. Elias adjusted the sensors, his movements calm and precise. "It's not a warship," he said quietly. "Inspection vessel." Standard authority markings. Solon nodded, studying the data. "That means they want to look official. They will follow procedure." Kiro crossed his arms. Procedure didn't stop him from abandoning us. Elias gave him a small look. "No, but procedure can protect you if you understand it." Tavi clung to Mira's hand. Mira squeezed gently, whispering reassuring words. She had learned that fear spread quickly if left alone, so she stayed close to the younger ones. The ship slowed as it reached docking range. Its engines glowed softly, controlled and steady. A transmission arrived moments later. "Outpost V9. This is inspection vessel Clarion. Prepare for boarding." Guardian representative present. The word guardian felt heavy. Lyra swallowed. He came himself. Elias didn't respond immediately. Instead, he opened multiple windows on the console, checking the backups they had prepared. Logs showing Carvin's departure, timestamps proving abandonment. Resource charts showing how the children had stabilized the outpost. "Remember what we practiced," Elias said gently. "Speak honestly. No yelling, no fear." Kiro nodded, though his jaw was tight. The airlock hissed open after docking clamps locked into place. Footsteps echoed through the corridor. 3 figures entered. 2 officials wearing neutral gray uniforms, and behind them, dressed in expensive fabrics, stood Carvin. He looked exactly the same. Tall, composed, and distant. His eyes swept across the room and paused on the children. For a moment, silence stretched. "I see you survived," he said finally. His tone carried neither relief nor warmth. It sounded more like mild surprise. Mira felt anger rise inside her, but she stayed quiet. Elias stepped forward, positioning himself slightly between Carvan and the children without making it obvious. One of the officials, a woman with sharp features, spoke first. "We are here to review a reclamation request filed by Carvin Drell, registered guardian. We will examine conditions and determine custody." Lyra felt her hands shake, but she forced herself to stand straight. Elias gave her a small nod, reminding her she had a voice. Carvin glanced at Elias with faint annoyance. "And you must be the human who interfered." Elias shrugged lightly. "I answered a distress signal." Carvin's lips tightened. These children were relocated for their own safety during a supply crisis. Solon stepped forward, unable to stay silent. "You left us without enough food." "You exaggerate." Elias activated the display panel. Images and data filled the air between them, logs showing the exact moment Carvin departed, energy levels dropping, emergency warnings activating. "Records disagree," Elias said calmly. The officials leaned closer, reading carefully. The sharp-featured woman exchanged a glance with her partner. Carvin's voice remained smooth. The human's presence may have influenced system records. Elias almost laughed. "That's not how timestamps work." Tension filled the room. Lyra realized this wasn't just about truth. It was about who controlled the story. The officials began asking questions one by one. How long had the children been alone? What resources remained? Who performed repairs? Each answer revealed more evidence that the children had been abandoned and then rebuilt their lives through cooperation. Mira described how they learned rationing. Kiro explained the hydroponic repairs. Solon presented organized data files. Even Tavi spoke, his small voice trembling but clear. Carvin listened, expression unchanged. Finally he spoke again. "They are still my responsibility," he said. "Their emotional interpretation does not change legal ownership." The word ownership felt cold. Elias's voice lowered slightly. "They are not cargo." Carvin ignored him and turned to the officials. "I request immediate transfer." "My reputation has already suffered due to this misunderstanding." The sharp-featured official hesitated. She studied the children carefully, then looked at the thriving systems around them. The outpost felt alive now, not abandoned. Before she could respond, alarms suddenly rang through the station. A deep, urgent tone echoed from the console. Red lights flashed along the walls. "Incoming storm surge," he said. "Solar wave from the star, stronger than predicted." Outside, space shimmered with shifting light. Energy readings spiked dangerously. The inspection vessel's captain called through the comm channel. "Electromagnetic storm approaching. All systems prepare for impact." Carvin's confident posture faltered slightly. The officials moved quickly, activating protective protocols. Elias stepped forward, already analyzing. "Shield strength on your ship?" 70%, came the reply. "But we may lose communication arrays." Lyra looked at Elias. "What do we do?" He moved into action immediately. "Everyone to stations." "Kiro, help me reinforce power routing." "Solon, monitor external readings." "Mira, keep Tavi calm and secure loose equipment." "Lyra, coordinate." They obeyed without hesitation. The storm arrived like a silent wave, energy crackling across space. The outpost trembled as systems strained against the surge. Lights flickered. Static filled the air. Carvin watched in disbelief as the children worked together with practiced efficiency. They moved like a trained crew rather than abandoned dependents. Elias guided Kiro through a complex rerouting process. Sparks flew as they sealed a loose conduit. Solon called out numbers rapidly, calculating fluctuations. Mira spoke calmly to Tavi, helping him focus on small tasks instead of fear. The officials exchanged stunned looks. "This station should have failed long ago," one whispered. Lyra heard it and felt a quiet pride rise. The storm intensified. A sharp warning flashed. The inspection vessel's docking clamps were losing stability. "We're drifting!" the captain shouted through comms. Elias reacted instantly. "We can anchor you from this side. Lyra, initiate manual lock sequence." Her hands moved across the console, repeating steps he had taught her, The clamps extended, struggling against the storm's force. For a moment, everything felt frozen between success and failure. Then the lock engaged with a heavy metallic sound. Relief spread through the room. The storm continued for several long minutes, pushing against the station like an invisible tide. Everyone remained focused until the energy readings slowly dropped. Finally, the alarms quieted. Silence returned, broken only by heavy breathing. The official with sharp features looked around slowly. "You stabilized both the station and our ship." Elias nodded toward the children. "They did." Carvin remained silent, but his eyes revealed frustration. The narrative he expected, helpless children needing rescue, had collapsed in front of him. The officials stepped aside to discuss quietly. Their voices were low, but the tone had changed. Lyra felt exhaustion wash over her. She sat down, realizing her hands were still shaking. Elias placed a cup of water beside her without saying anything. After several minutes, the officials returned. Given the circumstances, the woman said, "We will delay custody transfer until further review. Evidence suggests abandonment rather than relocation." Carvin's face hardened. "This is unacceptable." "It is procedure," she replied firmly. "Mop!" The children exchanged hopeful looks. Carvin turned to them, voice soft but sharp. "You misunderstand. I provided for you. Without me, you would have nothing." Lyra stood slowly. Her voice was calm now, not angry. "We have something," she said. "We have each other, and we learned to build." Carvin stared at her as if seeing a stranger. Elias said nothing. He simply watched, allowing the moment to belong to them. The inspection vessel remained docked overnight while systems recovered from the storm. During that time, the officials observed quietly. They watched the children working, laughing, solving problems together. They watched Elias guide without controlling. And slowly, something shifted. The next morning, the official woman approached Elias privately. "You changed them," she said. Elias shook his head. "They changed themselves. I just showed another way." She nodded, thoughtfully. Meanwhile, Carvin stayed distant, speaking mostly into his personal communicator, likely contacting allies. He looked smaller somehow, less certain. The children gathered near the hydroponic rack, checking the growing plants. The tiny sprouts had grown stronger during the past days. Tavi smiled. They survived the storm too. Mira laughed softly. "Like us." Elias watched them, feeling something warm settle in his chest. He had arrived planning to leave quickly. Now he could not imagine simply flying away. Outside the station, new signals appeared. Ships responding to distress calls from other nearby outposts damaged by the storm. Solon noticed first. "They need help." Elias followed his gaze. "Looks like we're not done yet." Lyra met his eyes. She no longer saw only a visitor. She saw someone who stood beside them without demanding anything in return. And as they prepared to assist others, the children realized something important. They were no longer the abandoned ones waiting to be saved. They were becoming the ones who saved. The storm left silence behind it, but it was not the same silence the children had known when they were first abandoned. Before, the quiet had felt empty and heavy. Now it felt like a pause between breaths, full of possibility and tension. Outside the viewing window, damaged ships drifted slowly as rescue signals blinked across the dark. The solar surge had struck multiple outposts across the sector, leaving systems weakened and communication lines unstable. Messages filled the console, requests for help, updates from nearby stations, fragments of conversations cut by static. Solon stared at the incoming data, his eyes moving quickly as he sorted through signals. 3 nearby outposts lost power, he said. 2 ships requesting docking assistance. one small transport, as life support failure. Lyra looked at Elias. We can help, right? Elias nodded without hesitation. We help where we can. But we plan first. No rushing into danger. Carvin stood at the far side of the room, watching quietly. The officials from the inspection vessel were still present, observing how the situation unfolded. Their earlier certainty had faded. They now watched the children with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Kiro rushed to the repair station. If ships are coming here, we need stronger docking clamps. Already thinking ahead, Elias said with a small smile. Good. Tavi followed her, carrying smaller items and trying to look serious despite his excitement. The first damaged ship arrived within an hour. Its hull showed scorch marks from energy waves, and its engine output flickered unevenly. Lyra guided it toward the safest docking position using manual controls Elias had taught her. Steady, he said calmly from beside her. Trust your hands. The ship locked into place with a heavy clang. Moments later, its crew emerged, tired aliens who looked surprised to see children coordinating rescue operations.
We thought this station was abandoned, one of them said.
It was, Lyra replied simply. Not anymore. They helped the crew settle, offering water and space to rest.
Mira spoke gently with a frightened passenger, calming them with quiet words. Solon checked the ship's logs to understand damage patterns. Kiro worked alongside Elias, repairing power connectors. Carvin watched all of this with increasing discomfort. The children he once viewed as helpless now moved with confidence and purpose. They listened to each other, solved problems, and treated strangers with kindness. They did not ask for permission from him. Hours passed quickly as more ships arrived. The outpost transformed into a small rescue hub. The hydroponic rack provided fresh greens for simple meals, and the repaired energy system held steady despite increased demand. At one point, Elias stepped back and simply observed. He saw Lyra guiding docking operations with calm authority. He saw Kiro explaining repairs to a visiting engineer with growing confidence. He saw Mira comforting a tired mother and her child, her gentle nature becoming a strength rather than a weakness. He saw Solon discussing technical solutions with officials, speaking as an equal rather than a frightened dependent. And he saw Tavi carrying supplies proudly, determined to help in any way he could. Something inside Elias shifted deeply. He realized they did not need saving anymore. They needed support, and perhaps someone who believed in them. Late in the evening, the Interstellar Council opened a live communication channel. The storm had drawn attention across the sector, and reports about the outpost's unexpected role in rescue operations had spread quickly. The main screen lit up, showing council representatives from different species. Their voices echoed through the room.
We have reviewed initial data, one representative said.
It appears this outpost has become a critical support point during the crisis. Another added, the actions of the children and the human pilot have prevented multiple losses. Lyra felt nervous standing before so many powerful figures, but she remembered Elias's advice. Speak honestly. We only did what we could, she said. Carvin stepped forward suddenly. While their efforts are admirable, I remain their legal guardian. I request immediate transfer of authority now that the situation has stabilized. The room fell quiet. The council members exchanged looks. One representative asked calmly, "Evidence suggests abandonment rather than responsible relocation. How do you respond?" The human interfered and influenced perception. Emotional manipulation is common among his species. Elias raised an eyebrow but remained silent. Before anyone else could respond, Tavi stepped forward. His small voice surprised everyone. "He left us," he said simply. We waited. He never came back. Mira placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, but she did not stop him. Kiro added, "We almost lost power. If Elias didn't come, we wouldn't be here." Solon displayed data logs again, showing clear timelines. Finally, Lyra spoke. "We don't want to go back," she said calmly. Carvin looked shocked. "You don't understand what you're rejecting." Lyra held his gaze. "We understand." Silence filled the room again. One council member leaned forward. "Guardian authority includes responsibility. Evidence suggests a failure of that responsibility." Carvin's composure cracked slightly. "They are children. They cannot decide their own future." Elias finally spoke. His voice was quiet but firm.
They learned to decide because they had to.
The council continued discussing, their voices overlapping as they reviewed legal codes and ethical standards. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the lead representative spoke again. "Until final judgment is reached, the children will remain where they currently reside. Independent evaluation will determine future guardianship." Carvin's face tightened with anger, but he said nothing more. After the call ended, exhaustion washed over everyone. The crisis had stretched their energy thin, but relief slowly replaced tension. That night, the outpost felt warm and alive. Lights glowed steadily. Soft conversations filled the corridors. The children gathered near the viewing window, watching stars drift slowly past. Elias stood slightly apart, staring into space. He knew his cargo schedule was long overdue. Messages from his company waited unanswered. Logic told him it was time to leave. Lyra approached quietly. "You're thinking about going?" He smiled faintly. "I was never meant to stay forever." She nodded, understanding but feeling a small ache in her chest.
"We'll be okay. I know,"
he said. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Tavi ran toward them, followed by the others. "We were talking," Mira said gently. "And we want to ask you something." Elias raised an eyebrow. Kiro crossed his arms, suddenly nervous. Solon adjusted his posture like he was about to present a serious proposal. Lyra took a breath. "You said humans build family through choice," she began. "We never chose Carvin, but we choose you." Elias blinked, surprised. "We don't need a savior," she continued. "We need someone who stands with us. Someone who teaches without controlling. Someone who stays because he wants to." Tavi added quietly, "Can you stay as our father?" The words hung in the air, simple and powerful. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. He had traveled across countless systems, lived alone for years, telling himself freedom meant never staying too long anywhere. But looking at them, at their strength, their growth, their trust, he realized he was no longer alone, even if he tried to be. He laughed softly, a little overwhelmed. "You know humans don't make promises lightly." Mira smiled. "That's why we asked." He looked at each of them carefully. "If I stay, it won't be because you need saving. It will be because we build something together." "That's what we want," Lyra said. Elias nodded, slowly. "Then I guess I'm not leaving anytime soon." Relief and joy spread across their faces. Outside, stars burned quietly against the darkness. The outpost that once felt like a place of abandonment had become a home, not defined by wealth or status, but by shared effort and chosen family. Alien ships continued arriving, drawn by stories of kindness and cooperation. Slowly, word spread across the sector about the human who stayed, the children who rebuilt themselves, and the small station that proved compassion could be stronger than cold logic. And as they stood together watching the stars, the children understood something deeply human. Family was not decided by blood or ownership. It was built, day by day, by those who chose to stay.